Hi, I'm Nathan from My Vision Oxfordshire, and this is Dev, and this is Double Vision. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to have a visual impairment on public transport.
Hold on. I've got to tell a blind joke because I think the listeners would like to hear one.
Okay, go for it.
So I recently bought a cheese grater for my blind friend. He said it was the most action-packed book he's ever read.
Oh my god.
Taxi for one. But topic. One of my favourite topics is public transport. Both of us use it for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
Sport is my main reason for using public transport. Obviously going to work and that. But yeah, coming here today especially was a traumatic experience. Using an app, trying to work out when the bus will actually arrive to when the app tells me it's going to be there. Chasing it was awful. You know when, like, I don't know if you ever find it, but when you're waiting at a bus stop and about 3 buses turn up and you have to do the walk of shame and ask each bus driver, are you going to this place? Or what bus is this? And
then you get anxious because, like, the first bus says no and you're scared that the next two are going to leave before you get to them as well.
To be honest, I'm just glad I get to the door. That's my main thing. Just don't trip into the bus. But once you're even in the bus, do you find, you know, when you've got the card and they're like, oh, just scan it here.
And just wave it around
for a bit. And you're thinking, oh, great. And then when you've finally done that, finding seats. Obviously for me, I have not much vision, so trying to find a seat's always a great...
You just like sitting on people's laps.
I do use that as an excuse to talk to people, for sure. But it does get a bit awkward if they're...
That's generally what I do. Like, sometimes people just shift out of the way and just kind of leave your seat, but if they don't tell you they're going to do that, fine.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just like, is anyone here that can just make sure I find a free seat? Then generally,
I'm a bit more awkward than that. I won't ask. I'll just keep waddling around until someone's like, oh, would you like a seat? But then it's always when you finally find a seat, and then, for example, where I usually sit is the accessible part, and then it's the battle between wheelchairs, being visually impaired, guide dog users.
Oh yeah, it's like a game of top trumps, isn't it?
It is. It's like, well, I'm blind, so I should actually have priority because I've taken about 25 minutes to try and find a seat, and then a buggy comes on. You think, great, I've got to try and find another seat now.
Yeah, it is tough. Sometimes people are really helpful though.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're just not. They just like they ignore you, isn't it?
And
if you ever had it, there's a certain bus route I go on, and there's one single disabled seat, so you can just sit by yourself. And it's great when I had a dog with me, but I always forget that there's a mirror so the driver can see like the area behind the stairs. I kept banging my head on the mirror.
Yeah. Or when you're trying to find the pole to press the button to stop.
Yeah.
And you're feeling up this pole slowly, and you're like, hang on.
Please be part of the bus.
Where's the button?
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, I've not got my cane out, so what do people really think I'm doing right now?
Yeah,
Apart from, obviously...
And it's all very well they have Braille on the button, if you can read Braille, and you know what the letter S is, but it doesn't help if you can't find the button.
Well, you never know if there's a future job, Magic Mike, obviously on the bus.
No comment.
Well,
what about other forms of public transport? So, like, how do you find flying?
Flying, not too bad to be honest. I usually book the passenger assistant, whatever flight I'm going on. I usually try and call up in advance.
Do you know what? I don't.
Oh, wow.
I just ask for it when I get there, and they never fail to get it right.
Wow, you're doing
I think I want to have spontaneity. I'd love to think I can go to the airport this afternoon and fly somewhere without having to call up passenger assistants and ask for help. So as long as I can get into the airport, they always sort it for me.
But do you find when you get to the airport, someone helps you? Because how do you know where you're going once you're at the airport?
Do passenger assistants, where do they meet you?
Exactly. Well, that's one of the flaws.
Assistants.
You kind of walk in and it's like, well, passenger assistants, where do I go? So usually I just
kind of hope you can find someone in a uniform or something, right?
I just pray for a shadow to just walk past and say, excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you know where the passenger assistance is?
Yeah.
And usually they've got their phone. They're on the phone. I'll tell you
one thing you can do though, is ask ChatGPT where it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've done
for
that.
any airport.
Like, what? Yeah.
Oh,
what I do is I go, like I say, I flew to Finland at the weekend, and it said, like, you know, they have sections A, B, C, D, E in the terminal, and I can see the big letters, but that's all I can see. I can't see any logos or numbers or anything like that. So I asked ChatGPT, where's Finnair? And it says it's at point B. So I'm going to point B and then just wave my cane around until someone comes and finds me. They're generally pretty good.
I would always think to probably use Be My Eyes if I ever got really stuck, but probably when I have flown independently, I tend to just try and find someone.
Yeah.
But once you get to passenger assistance, they always offer me a wheelchair. And I'm not sure if they're trying to be nice or they're just saying he looks like he needs to take a seat.
I asked someone this the other day actually, and they said the thing is the majority of people we help do need a wheelchair or do want one, so we just bring them every time.
Oh, okay.
Right? You don't have to have it, and often the staff like to bring them around, even if you're not using it, because if they leave it somewhere, another member of staff will take it, and then they won't have one later.
Yeah.
So they do it on purpose, but I've had stuff like, I figure they should all be trained guides, seeing as they're guiding people.
Yes.
Someone held my hand on Friday. He literally grabbed my hand.
Any excuse?
Yeah, I know.
And have you, once you've actually, so you have booked passenger assistance and all that,
Yeah.
and do you ever find that you're left on the plane after everyone's left for a good
No, I
half
just
an
get
hour?
off.
Oh, you get off then and then
I
you
just walk
decide
off.
to-
Like, how lost can you get getting off a plane?
I have tried that when as I said, when I've flown independently, but they refused to let me off the plane. They told me to sit down, and then I had to wait for one of those big trucks that attaches to the side of the plane.
Yeah, in certain airports, they're weird, those ones, aren't they?
So it added like an extra hour of waiting. But obviously then you get to fast pass when you get actually to the queuing part, and you're like, see you later guys, I'm through.
Yeah, that's quite nice,
and you got to turn around and say, can someone help me find my suitcase?
Yeah, do you know what my latest hack for getting the suitcase found? Take a photo of your suitcase, and then when someone helps you to find your suitcase, go, it looks like this.
Okay, what happens if it's a Tottenham suitcase?
Then you shouldn't be flying.
Yeah, we're flying down the league at the moment, but we're not. That's for a different topic of conversation. Yeah. We're not going to go on to.
Do you use taxis or Ubers or anything like that?
Yeah. So I've started using Ubers when I'm travelling up north, and taxis again. Yeah. I used it more when I had my guide dog, but again, it was one of those you would sometimes speak to the taxi driver or the sort of operator and say, look, I've got a guide dog, and they always go a bit funny. Yeah. And they're like, yes, we can take. And then you actually approach the taxi car with the guide dog, and they're kind of like, we didn't know actually you were going to bring an assistance dog. So it's that awkward of, please don't refuse me because I don't want to have to go through that whole drama.
I don't want that stress, yeah. Like Uber's gotten better with it.
They do a pet friendly.
Well, I mean, you could do that, but your guide dog's not a pet. You shouldn't be able to Uber in all of them. But if you really want to get over that, you can just book Uber Pet, right? It's an extra quid. Yeah. To not have that stress. I know a lot of people who do. The other thing I like to do is you can just message the driver in advance, and so I've been using them at the weekend and saying, I'm stood outside this building, I've got a white stick, find me.
That's
and
what
they do.
That is what I have found, like when I've left the train station or something and I have booked a taxi or an Uber, sometimes they will beep or flash, and I'm like, okay, so because I'm blind, I'm suddenly able to see someone flashing there.
Or like beeping. I don't know that's for me. I'm going to say my name.
I'm going to randomly cross the road and get into a beeping car, and next minute you'll never see Dev again. That's the sort of situation I've got going through my head.
Can't see you now.
There you go. Timbuktu is where you'll next find me. But yeah, taxis, and I find as well trains. How do you find trains? Like
it's one of those ones, isn't it? You've got to find assistance first. I always get super nervous on trains that they're not going to come get me.
Yeah.
In the airport, it's fine because the plane doesn't just take off after it's landed, but the train keeps going, and I always get scared that they're not going to come get me.
I have had a friend that's told me that he was meant to be going to Wolverhampton, and they forgot to come and get him, and he ended up going to Scotland.
That far.
He is not confident enough to kind of get up. He's got no vision at all. So
but surely someone come and checked his ticket at some point. He didn't have a ticket.
No one actually came up. So that's the sort of, I think when I was first kind of in that denial stage about my vision and like not knowing what to do, I had that as well when I was sort of 13. I was on the train going back home and I missed my stop. But then I was like, oh great, I've got to now get off at a sort of train station. I don't know the layout or anything, so I kind of got off and was like calling my mum saying, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, and it was getting dark at the time, and I thought, gosh, please save me.
Get that anxiety.
And then that kind of put me off using trains for a long time. But again, just like when you go to the airport and that, you can book passenger assistance, and I probably use trains the most
Have you
for
used
public transport.
What about London Underground? You done that by yourself?
Yeah, well, yeah. Not,
I love that.
I kind of go up to the ticket gate and kind of say, I need to get to here, and they will just literally put me on the.
They're fantastic. It's their policy that they just help you. Like the staff have to do it, and you skip all the barriers and stuff. You don't end up paying the ticket.
And also, even if like when you get off, if no one comes to collect you, if you are confident enough to get off on the sort of underground, the train driver will blow like a train whistle to like.
You know the doors are shut. Yeah.
Well, just to let someone else know that there's someone here. I kind of thought I was seeing Thomas the Tank Engine for the first time, the way that this whistle went. But yeah, it's kind of handy. Also, I think one of the perks about being blind is especially with trains, which I wish this would happen on aeroplanes, but sometimes when it's a really busy train, they put you in first class.
Yeah, they never do that on flights, no matter how much I ask.
You get off in the trolley service, you're like, oh, would you like some biscuits? You think, wow. This is great. I've got a standard ticket and I'm in first class.
The first time that happened to me, he was like, do you want some tea and a biscuit? And I was like, I don't really want to buy a tea and a biscuit right now. And then I found out later they were doing them for free. I was like, I missed out.
I was just too scared that they might look at my ticket and then charge me an extra 25 quid for a biscuit, which Christmas is the
How
only
big
time.
would that biscuit be?
Mini cookie standards. Probably bigger than my head, but you know me, I can eat anything, really.
I do know.
Any size.
As long as it's not veg.
So,
as long as it's not veg.
If we were to advise someone who's paying attention to us right now, thank you for paying attention this far.
I'm sorry.
What would your advice be?
For public transport?
If you live with a vision impairment and you need to get around.
I would say make sure you plan your trips in advance. Any of the forms of public transport, definitely plan in advance. What I would do as well is make sure your phone is charged to full battery, because I've had it where I'm at like 10% on a bus and I'm thinking it's not got any audio description, so I don't actually know where I am. I'm just watching the percentage slowly going down and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've still got another half an hour.
I've had that exact thing happen to me and my phone died. It was my first day at a new job.
Yeah. And that's literally my sort of tips is make sure you prepare to go. Failure to prepare to fail. Yeah. Very wise saying.
I will say a lot of public transport has chargers. However, don't rely on that. The last flight I went on said it had them, didn't have them.
Well, there you go. And
I was prepared though.
I would always say as well, sometimes it can be quite nerve-wracking speaking to people, but just asking someone, feel confident enough to get up and maybe not when you're on the plane, get up and ask the pilot like how long till the flight.
I don't think they'll let you there.
You'd be taken out. But like, for example, on a train, if there's someone that you think's sat next to you, just say excuse me, or on a bus, excuse me. Just that confidence.
This is where it is really helpful to have a simple cane or just a regular cane or something.
Even the lanyards. The lanyards just saying.
It circumvents that conversation. You don't have to go, excuse me, and because I've had it. The bus driver. Is this the 400?
Yeah.
Says it right there, mate. I can't read, but I haven't told him that.
No, and that's the thing when you get onto sort of these places, you fold away your cane, you put it somewhere a bit more discreet, so you do just look like a normal person, but
which you're entitled to do. But there are times when actually your life becomes much easier if you just point out just for that minute.
And it's kind of one of those. It's just feeling confident enough to do that, and it does take time to build up that confidence. But the more you actually use it. The more you kind of gain that confidence. And also, obviously, if you are registered, you get the disabled bus pass, disabled rail cards. Like, these are perks. It gets some money saved all the time.
I recently learned if you want to go on the Eurostar, if you want a companion, you pay full price, but they pay £40 each way. It's a bargain to get all the way to Paris.
And you didn't even invite me?
I haven't been there. I just found out this.
There's our next trip.
Get
that sorted out, George. Next trip to Paris or something, where we will do our next episode. Well, shall we say goodbye to everyone that's been listening to our...
thanks for making it this far, and...
Stay tuned for the next episode
of...
Double Vision.